I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I don't know if I mentioned it to either of you. I think I might have mentioned it to Kristin, maybe. But I just finished reading the book Fangasm, of Supernatural Fangirls is the subtitle on the book. But it's by these two university professors whose last names are escaping me because the whole book they're just referring to each other as Kathy and Lynn. But they wrote two different books about supernatural fandom because they were in it and both academics and were interested in looking at the academic side of things. And what resulted was one book that was more of an academic study, researching fan communities and behavior and all these different things. And then the other one, which is the one that I read, was just kind of about the emotional journey of doing all of this research, because they have families and they would travel to all of these different conventions, and they had so many experiences of like having really miraculous things happen, like Jim Beaver inviting them over to his house to do an interview and stuff like that, or sitting down with Misha for dinner or something, like all of those things, like, and they got to go to the set a couple of times. They also had really sad and disheartening things happen. Like I think they actually got a cease and desist letter at one point because the powers that be were unhappy with the direction they wanted to take the book. Which was, I mean, they wanted to take an honest and empowering look at fandom, specifically certain areas of fandom like fan fiction and how that relates to female sexuality in particular, and having a safe zone to explore certain themes that people are afraid to, I guess, discuss in other venues, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's a really fascinating book, and I enjoyed it, and it triggered a lot of different reactions in me as I was reading it. Like, it had, there were moments where I'd feel like this swell of emotion of just like, I get that, like, I understand this. And a lot of that was because, this is a fandom I am a part of. Like, this is something that I feel at home with. And I don't participate in every aspect of this fandom. I don't write or really read fan fiction or create art or anything like that, mainly because I don't have an artistic bone in my body except for writing, but then there were other parts where it was just like, I felt that same longing that they had to really be a part of something, and that sense of belonging in a fandom can be so powerful. And then there's also, the kind of seedy underbelly of fandoms where they can turn on people. And they mentioned the very first convention that the Supernatural cast attended for the show was Asylum in London, I think in 2008, maybe. But I guess at that convention, like a teenage girl literally jumped from a staircase onto Jensen. What? And tackled him into an elevator, and security people were trying to pull her off, and he's pressing buttons trying to get the door to open or something. And so that happened at the very, very, very first Supernatural-esque convention.
Wow.
And sort of the entire fandom just turned on this flying fangirl, as they called her, and because no one wanted to be associated with that level of, I guess, intensity, fanaticism. Yeah. And I think that they also, in this book, they touch on a lot of the interesting dichotomy of fandom, where you really, really, really intensely want to be a part of something, and you want to love it with other people who love it, and you want to belong, but you don't want to be that person.
Yes.
You don't want to be you don't want to be called crazy, and you don't want to be called a stalker, and you don't want to do anything that people would make you that people would associate you with either of those words, there's a very deep desire to still be legitimized as a human being and as an individual within loving something a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I'm curious to hear both of your thoughts about the experience of fandom, I guess. Especially an active fandom like this one. I mean, Buffy, for me, was my first show that I really, really, really fell for, but it was
mine. Mine was before the internet. Mine was before, but I did go to an X-Files convention, an actual X-Files convention. I was 13. It was amazing. I loved it. But that was my first fandom. But I mean, how many fandoms do I have? I'm trying to look around my room at all the signs. I don't know. I'm like, yeah, and I have posters and shit on the way for my relatively newer fandoms. I just haven't gotten them up yet. But, you know, I mean, I don't know if I've talked about it on this show, but I have OCD, and not the OCD like, oh my god, my keys have to go in the same vault every night, OCD. But like where I actually have to go talk to doctors and take medicine, and it disrupts my life in a very large way every day. That's what this is. My fandoms actually are a focal point for me. That's why I have this wall. This is my wall, and it's my OCD wall. So I have this here because the fandoms they make me feel very connected and very safe and very consistent, because that's a huge thing for me, and I'm assuming other people with OCD, I don't really know how to talk for them, but I love the consistency of there's the episodes and the movies and the books and the shows and all those things that are always there and always consistent and right there for you. So I put these up here, so whenever I'm having moments when I get particularly overwhelmed, that's why this is here. I look at them and it calms me down, and it makes me feel that no matter what else is going on that I can't control, I've got this, you know, and it makes me... I don't know why that was just bugging me all of a sudden. I could see it in the thing behind me. I'm sorry. But no, it just... Fandoms are... I don't participate in, like, the online communities. I don't go into, like, the forums. I don't write fan fiction or anything like that. But it makes me feel really, really good to know that there are other people out there that get the same kind of satisfaction or different kind of satisfaction, but a level of satisfaction where it makes them feel better. It makes them feel like they have a place, they have a home base that they can go back to where there's people who are like them and people who like the same weird, random, ridiculous things that we like. And it's... I think fandoms are great. I think there's nothing wrong with them except for, again, in the fanatic phase. But that's for anything. If you ever take anything to a fanatic phase, religion, fandoms, politics, anything, you've gone too far. But no, fandoms. I support them. Vote for fandoms.
Vote for fandoms. Go fandoms.
I'm kind of at the other end of the spectrum. Emmie and I were talking about this some today, that I probably wouldn't go to a convention, and some of that's due to extreme social anxiety, but I just wouldn't go. I don't know why. And like, it's not that I judge people who do or anything like that, because I'll go to conventions of other sorts and that kind of thing, but I just have not felt that wedded to any particular fandom. And I mean, I get into it. Like, I was really into the Lord of the Rings when they came out, and I did collages and was just really into it, and I watched all the behind the scenes and all that stuff, and it just hasn't happened for me again in that way. And I don't know. It's like I just don't connect with shows in that way, maybe. And then even like when I'm a huge fan of a book or something, I don't know. I don't think that I would go to the cons, and like I don't have, you know, Harry Potter calendars, even though I love Harry Potter and that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I just
calendar behind me.
am like, I'm fan light, I guess.
No, I understand that. I'm a very social person, that I love talking to people. I love meeting people, all of that. But I hate actually having to
meeting people terrifies me to my very soul. So
I think like I'm comfortable meeting people. I'm always comfortable talking to them, keeping conversations going. That's like the one actual skill I have in life, is that I'm good with people initially.
Yeah.
But getting there, like the idea of having to get in a car and go to those places, the idea of having to fly somewhere, break my schedules and routines and whatever, it's very hard for me. So going to Comic-Con in New York City, I went into a huge, I was in a very, very big, I don't know what else to call it, so I'll just call it like an OCD hole over the summer. It was very, very bad. It was a very low place, and that's actually why my husband suggested I go to Comic-Con, was to try to put a little, you know, swing in my step or something, spring in my step. I'm a writer.
You were avoiding the cliche.
I was trying to, and it didn't work. It failed.
Well, you almost got there. So.
It was close. But no, and in all fairness, I mean, I enjoyed going to Comic-Con, and I enjoyed everything I saw. It was one of the most miserable experiences of my life. Like, I genuinely thought multiple times during that day I was going to die. I got lost in New York City. It was a whole big thing.
Oh, man.
But I didn't. So I'm like, yeah. I can go. if I needed to. I don't know if I would, but like if a con popped up and it was nearby and I happened to have money and I was in, you know, a really good mental health place, I would go. I think they're great. I support people going to them. I would go to them where all the planets and stars aligned properly for me to do so, but I think that. But what? No,
Oh, I just don't really have the social aspect to my kind of fandoms. It's very personal. Like, I love. I don't know exactly what tends to put it in the show Downton Abbey, and then some of you may know that last Christmas they killed a major character. They cover your ears if you don't know. They killed Matthew, and I felt like just deeply, deeply hurt and betrayed by that. It was really personal, and I mean, I think I talked to Emmie on that Christmas day or the day after, and I was just devastated. Like, it ruined my Christmas. And this year when Matt Smith leaves Doctor Who, I will again, I'm sure, be devastated.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just not a social thing maybe for me that I connect with them, but it's going to be brutal when he leaves, and I don't know. In some ways, like, I don't recover from something like what Downton Abbey did. I still feel like abused by that show.
That's a real feeling, though. That's real.
Yeah. And that's, I think with my experience, I mean, Supernatural is really the first active fandom that I have engaged with, and I know that like a lot of, you know, Buffy fans are still present. And still there. I mean, in 10 years after a show goes off the air, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But at the same time, I mean, with Supernatural still being on air, and I experienced this, I mean, there's an upside and there's a downside, and the upside is that, you know, you like, I love when I go onto Twitter and I like tweet something with the Supernatural hashtag, and then someone I don't know from Adam will tweet back to me, and we'll have this moment where it's just like, yes, I get you. And
yes, that. Thank you.
That's wonderful, because you can connect with someone who's never met in person, really far away, and just have a moment where it's just like, yes, we're on the exact same page. Someone gets me. This is really cool. And then on the other hand, there's like, I saw that major spoiler just like by logging on to Facebook, and I really shouldn't have. But it's just like, I saw like I was just like, I knew what was going to happen in the last 5 minutes of the episode, and that's happened to me a couple of times this year. It happened with The Walking Dead earlier this year too, and it was just like, you know, that part of it can be really tough because everyone is in a hurry to connect and everything, but not everyone gets to watch it at the same time. So it sort of ends up like a minefield on occasion. But I went to, I will say, like, New York Comic Con is so huge, Summer. It was so huge, and like the Supernatural convention I went to was nowhere near that magnitude. It was a lot smaller venue, like probably just a tiny fraction of the number of people, and I liked that size of things a lot. Like, Kristin was here for Capclave this year, and that's a smaller convention as well. But I really
thank God, because I would have. I melt down in crowds. So.
Yeah, no, I'm a very, very nervous person. In crowds, like, I can talk to people just fine, but if I'm just walking along in the crowds, I'm terrified. My friend that I was with the whole day, I just clung to him and, like, made him, like it's like a little duck following him around all day, and I was terrified.
Yeah.
It was awful. But when I was a kid, like, I was very different. I lived in a very, very small town, and I was interested in, like, writing and acting and all of these things. And it was essentially like you played football or you were a cheerleader, and that was about it. So I got made fun of a lot for the things that I would read. Yeah. I never watched the show everybody watched. You know, I never did the right thing.
That sounds very familiar.
Exactly. So, but as an adult, there's something so amazingly satisfying about, like, being out at the store, like, or walking through the mall, or going to get gas, and you see somebody walking by with, like, a butterbeer shirt on, or, like, a little TARDIS necklace, and you're like, yeah, and, you know, and they get it, and you, like, give them a wink, and they smile right back at you because they know you don't even have to talk, and it's so beautiful, and I love that there are people out there like that. I feel like if you are a part of a fandom, you are the person that's going to high-five the stranger because they have the TARDIS on their necklace, or that they have the Castiel shirt, or whatever. I love that. We are not alone in this world. The fandoms bring us all together.
Yeah, I love that. And I was at an Imagine Dragons concert a couple months ago, and I was just standing in line. I was there by myself because I am that weirdo who goes to everything alone. And I had my earbuds in. I'm sitting there just like chilling, listening to music. And I was wearing my Doctor Who Star Wars mashup shirt. And this girl who's probably like 12 years old comes running up to me, and I was like really confused, and she's got her hand like put out, and I was just kind of like, what's going on? And she's like, you mentioned that my shirt, and I was like, oh, and she like high fives the crap out of me.
Yes.
She was wearing a Batman shirt, and I wish I'd been quicker on my feet, or I would have held up my phone, because me and I would have been like, right on. But I love that. It's just like that moment.
Yeah.
I love it.
For me, Doctor Who is really that safe fandom. Like, as soon as I see someone with something Doctor Who related, I'm like,
you're my people.
You're okay. Yeah.
Harry Potter is that for me. I feel like if there's an adult walking around with something Harry Potter on, I'm going to like them as a person. You know what I mean? Like, if I find out that somebody likes Harry Potter enough to have a little Harry Potter something, I'm like, you're a good people. She showed her phone. Yeah. I don't know if you can see, it's Baby Hedwig on all the spell books. It's just like, it's cute. So yeah, no, I like the fandoms, and we've gotten off the supernatural topic, but I love it. I love it. Like, I love it if I'm wearing my supernatural shirts and somebody knows what that means. I'm like, yay!
Yeah, and I wanted to discuss this because I really enjoyed reading that book, and I doing a show like this and being the founder of a geek site that's really, I've had people suggest to me or ask me if they could like plug their book or something like that on the site, and I've said no, because I want it to be a place where we can come together over kind of established things, like things that that there's already a community around, and that's kind of why I founded this site, because there are so many sites where you can go and see like book tours and book reviews, and there are a dime a dozen. Those sites, they're out there. Like, people want to plug their book.
We're also inundated with the self-promotion as well, that it's just noise, white noise at this stage.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind, I mentioned this to one of our contributors, that I wouldn't mind like doing kind of a discovery post like once a month or something, where we kind of say like, look at these new things that we found. But the thing I love about our site is that it's, a lot of us really love a lot of the same things. Like, we had our Supernatural Roundtables kind of went on a hiatus, but we've got Wine and Winchesters going, and that might even be something we could just pick up during the show hiatus in the summer. But like, we all have things that overlap, and if you like lined out all the contributors for the site, like, all of us have, probably you could put any two of us together and we would have at least 2 or 3 overlapping fandoms.
Right?
And I really love that, because that's exactly what I wanted to create with Searching for Superwomen, is kind of a geek haven where we can love those things, and we can talk about them, and we can dig a little bit deeper and be willing to ask those questions, and not just be like, okay, well, I'm not going to criticize it, I'm just going to stop watching it if it bugs me at times, but to actually engage and to really, I like that. I as a writer, I hope someday that people love my work enough to pick it apart.
Yes. And tell me why I did it wrong and why it sucks, but they're going to keep reading it anyway because they secretly love it. I guess what we're really getting down to here is that geeks are awesome, and we love them.
Well, yeah.
They're our people.
And that's I think that brings us right back to the sense of belonging that comes with fandoms, and what I felt at that convention, what I feel every time we do this show, or every time I talk to people on Twitter or Facebook that I don't know in person, and I just get to have those moments of just like, you are my people. Like, I have a people. Let us sing the song of our people, and for this show, carry on my wayward son. So, I love that, and you guys should definitely read that book. And anyone watching, you should read Fangasm. Tweet at them, Fangasm SPN. They are fabulous women. I haven't met Kathy in person, but Lynn and I had a little elevator chat at the convention because we were just talking, and all of a sudden she said something that clued me, and I'm like, oh, you wrote the book. She's like, I wrote the book. So, but they, I really appreciate an in-depth look into fan culture as well, because there is so much that goes on, and it's not a homogenous creature. There are so many different facets of it, and so many different ways to engage with something that you love. And I love that, because I think that fandom should be a place where any of those ways are acceptable. Where, if you want to write whatever you want to write it. You don't have to read what's out there. Like, you don't have, if you don't want to read something, you don't have to read it. You don't have to engage with a certain corner of it if you don't want to. But, you can all stand on the common ground of loving something. So,
agreed.
I think we can. That sounds like a good stopping place.
The chair has attacked my ass. It's time. Yes, when you see me fidgeting, that's how you know that the chair has come for my soul, and I have moments to live.
Well, and this is the longest episode so far, so we will see you guys next
January.
Oh, we will, yeah.
So you guys have a wonderful.
Do we know the return date?
It's January 14th. So the next Wine and Winchesters will be January 15th at 8 p.m.
Hey, that's right before my birthday.
Yeah. On your birthday?
My birthday's the 18th, so.
Oh, okay, before. I was like, it's on your birthday?
Yeah. No, if it were on my birthday, that would be awesome.
Happy birthday! Well, we will have to sing a very happy birthday while we are, for our next Wine and Winchesters.
Yeah, an early happy birthday.
Yes.
Well, that will help me remember when to do this again.
We can just sing, like, since it won't be your actual birthday, we can sing a very merry unbirthday to you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I think I would like that.
I was waiting for someone to get that. It took a minute, so I was like,
Yeah. Nope, I got it. It took me a second. I was trying to think of the next lyric, and then I just had the melody in my head, and it just ran, and so I just went with it. So.
All right, well, I'm gonna cut off the live broadcast. Bye, everybody. Have a good holiday season.
Good holidays. Merry